on mathematics and how are we going to make our learning more enjoyable with it. So the practices that we are going to share in today's session are basically our beliefs that we practice at Genesis as a team. So we will be expecting inputs from you, feedbacks, and we have to share a lot of things to make it much more better. So let's start. So this is what we aim for in today's session. We are going to look into the components of designing a hands-on activity in mathematics. We would be sharing some good practices with each other. We will also be looking into what things we need to keep in mind before we design an activity. And we'll do a few activities ourselves. So let's start. Before we start, Manisha, would you like to explain regarding the feedback form?
Definitely, ma'am. At the end of the session, we are going to share a feedback form. You are requested to fill the feedback form with correct information, and this will really help us to improve on our workshops which are planned for the future. Thank you.
Okay, so what we are going to do is we'll keep our major communication through the chat box. You may also raise your hand and Miss Manisha will ask you to unmute yourself and you can express your views. We will be assessing our learning through the common jargon which we are quite familiar till now, which is RAG. So you're going to type the first letter of the word red. So you type R. In case you have not understood, you will type A, in which case you think you have understood but the thing is not very clear to you, and you are going to type a G in case you completely have understood the concept and you can explain it to others. So I think it's understandable. So if I now say let's RAG, let's see what responses we get. Manisha in the chat box.
I would request everyone to leave their responses in the chat box, please. Ma'am, we
So
are
you
getting
have to write a R, A or G if till here it was clear.
yes. Ma'am, we are getting maximum greens.
Okay, so that means I can move forward. All right. So I couldn't find a better quote than to start with. If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. This quote many years back helped me reflect back on my own teaching practice when as a new teacher I entered the class and I tried to bombard my students with a lot of information, but I could see that the understanding part was not happening. So the ways I changed my teaching pedagogy and made it more student centric, I saw that there was a lot of change. Manisha, what would you say on this?
Ma'am, I definitely agree with you. When we mold our teaching according to the way they learn, they have a better impression and they become lifelong learners.
Exactly. Okay. So now what we are going to first discuss are the components of a hands-on activity. So you must have also designed a hands-on activity in your school. So let's hear from you. What components do you keep in your hands-on activity? Let's have the answers in the chat box.
I would request everyone to write their answers in the chat box, please.
Manisha, have we started getting responses?
Ma'am, we are yet to get any response, so I would request
We can
everyone.
also request somebody to just raise their hand and if they would like to share what are the components of a hands-on activity for them in their area. So maybe you can raise your hands and we'll ask you.
I would request you to raise your hand, please, if you want to share your views.
Any responses, Manisha?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay, nobody has even raised their hand.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll wait for a while. Manisha, what do you think? What can be the components?
Ma'am, when we are planning an activity, I think we have to have these clear learning objectives that this is what I am aiming at. So by the end of the session, it's very important that what I have planned, that should be fulfilled by the end of the session, and the students are able to, actually do the activity and they're able to achieve those learning objectives. So that is the most important component for me, the learning objectives.
Okay, wonderful. Do we have any other responses from any of the participants?
I would request you to please write your responses in the chat box.
Or if it's going slow, you can even raise your hand, we'll get to you.
Purva ma'am, I think we can move further.
Okay, so moving forward, these are our components that we thought are required for hands-on activity. What I want my learners, students to learn. So exactly as quoted by Miss Manisha, we look into the objectives, the learning outcomes, what we expect from the students, what was the aim for designing that whole activity. So that comes under our component 1. Secondly, what we look into is how do we make them learn, or how do I want them to learn? So what is the strategy that I'm going to apply to make them learn? So your entire planning procedures, whether it's going to be technology oriented, whether it's going to be a cutting pasting thing, so all would come under here. Thirdly, we would like to share that how do I let the learners know whether they've learned the thing or not. So that's very important for the students as well as the teachers to understand that what you had planned for them, was it reachable to them or not. So these are the 3 basic components on which we design our hands-on activity, and I'm sure you'll agree with it.
Purva ma'am, we have a response from Ms. Kakuli. She thinks procedure to get the objectives is very important.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. So, okay, so we come to the first component. We are going to touch base all the components by hearing the inputs from you. So what are the objectives of doing a hands-on activity? If we can have the answers in the chat box. What are your primary objectives of doing a hands-on activity? Let's hear it. And you can even raise your hand and Ms. Manisha will ask you if you would like to share with the audience.
I will request everyone to write their answers in the chat box.
Are there any hands raised up, Manisha? We can even ask them.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Manish has written in the chat box that effective student engagement is important.
Okay.
Mr. Buno has written that to make the concept more thorough.
Wow, wonderful. Yeah. Any other responses?
I think participants are still typing, ma'am.
All right. So meanwhile, Manisha, you can also share what objective do you plan a hands-on activity?
Ma'am, for me, again, learning objectives are the first thing, and I keep the prior knowledge also in mind while planning my activity. So, what students already know and what I want them to know after the activity. We have got a response from Mr. Rajiv that practical understanding is also very important for the hands-on activity.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So can I move forward?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So these are a few objectives that we thought were required before we design our hands-on activity, which is what I want my students to learn that we had explained earlier. We also use it as a tool for our assessment of learning because the entire learning is happening in front of us. So we use it as a tool of a formative learning, formative assessment, because we understand with their discussion, the things that whatever they're doing, we understand what is the process and how they're learning it. It also caters to all the learners, so we can cater to our visual learners, auditory learners, then our kinesthetic learners. So we are basically catering to the differentiation as well. And I also feel that with an activity, there's a lot of collaborative learning possible because students learn better when they learn with each other. So that is again an intention for doing a collaborative group activity. Finally, we also look into clarifying misconceptions because you must be seeing that there are a lot of misconceptions that grow with the students. So if they are not looked into right at the beginning, then the building may not be that strong. So we have to make the foundations very strong with the help of clarifying misconceptions. So we look into these objectives before doing a hands-on activity. And I'm sure the audience, yes.
Yeah, sorry. We have two more responses. Miss Dolly has written that hands-on activities are used to create interest, and
Wow.
Miss Asha Lata has written that it's from concrete to abstract.
Oh, that's really wonderful. Concrete to abstract. That's a wonderful way to say. Thanks a lot. Okay, so here we will be showcasing a few examples that we have taken and done in our class. This was one of the hands-on activity which we did with addition, subtraction and multiplication of integers. The primarily objective which we thought was that students were even not able to communicate in terms of integers. Like they were using the term a +5 and a +5 interchangeably, which we thought that we need to check on that, because a +5 is a directed number whereas a +5 is an operation. So they can't be used interchangeably. So this was our first idea in mind. Secondly, we also wanted them to understand that positive integers, like I have 2 notebooks. So it's the numerical value here. So 2 notebooks, a +2, but they were not able to identify with negative numbers. It was only with the signs that there's a debit in the account, or the temperatures were going down, or they were going down a lift. So what we did was we made them hold these unit squares that I would like to show you. So we made them hold these unit squares in their hand, and they considered themselves as very proud owners of, say, 5 positive integers, 6 negative integers. And this is how we also introduced them to the zero pair. That means that if you are borrowing something, you also need to give it back. So it's the same as saying you have got nothing or the zero. So that comes here as the zero pair. So we did our addition and our subtraction activity based on the concept of the zero pair, which was quite helpful for us, because we thought that student generally did integers only as rules. They knew that plus, minus, minus without understanding why was this thing happening. So this gave them a very clear understanding that what was the entire procedure behind it. So we found this very, very helpful when we did it with our MYP1 students. Secondly, this was another activity that we did with our MYP2 students, which was on pi, because as a teacher, you must have experienced that whenever you want to discuss the concept of pi, the first answer that comes up is 22/7, which is absolutely wrong. But you have your BPs raised up, but still you can't say. You need to keep calm and tell them, oh, in a while you'll get to know about this. So pi is what we wanted them to understand. It's basically the ratio of the circumference to the diameter. So we wanted to we identified this as a misconception and wanted to clarify this as they did this activity. So this activity was based on removal of misconception. Maybe let's hear from you that what all activities have you designed, which could be either based on differentiation or a collaborative learning. So we can have it from the audience. You can share your samples as well with us. The basic crux, like whatever you have done with the activity, what you intended to do. We can have hands raised on, because it would be difficult to type in all these things. Manisha, do we have any audience with their hand raised up?
Ma'am, we are waiting.
Okay.
Ma'am, till that time, let me share my views about the same. I am planning to do an activity in statistics in the next few lessons. And for that, what I've done is, first we did all types of graphs, and then we have given different situations to groups. And I have made sure that the groups that I'm making, they have all kind of learners. So this will, actually address the differentiation part. And they will be given a situation where they have to, come up with a single graph that they all agree upon. So they will have to make a graph which is best suited for the condition. At the same time, they have to collaboratively come on that point that this is the graph that we are going to present to the class. So there we will be, actually focusing on the differentiation part, the collaboration part, and then learning on the statistics.
Oh, that's really great. Do we have anyone from the audience who would like to share? It would be really nice to learn from each other. So I would really request everyone to please share your views on this, because I'm sure everybody must be doing hands-on activities in school, especially in a subject like math.
Yes, ma'am, we have a hand raised.
Yeah, please carry on.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you for organizing this session. As such, I actually am new to MYP, so I have not done any hands-on activity, but I have done something like an activity. For example, I was teaching MYP 4, circle
Right.
theorems. So I used GeoGebra. They have a ready-made applets, and to show them the different properties and to move the points around and show that the angles come out of the same. It's very they get it very easily rather than explaining it in so many words. So I found it. I don't know if it would count it as a hands-on activity or
Yeah,
not, but
definitely, sir.
I
Definitely. We have
found
been.
it to be very helpful. Yeah, just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much, sir. And even I would like to share, I did the same with my class also, and it was like they were able to identify that moment the angle moves to the alternate segment, that how the angle changes. So that visualization was there. Now they don't actually make any kind of mistake while they're attempting questions on circle theorems. So that was really good. Anybody else who would like to share? Manisha, are there any more responses or we can move on?
Ma'am, we can move forward.
Ms. Desai wants to speak.
Okay. Yes, please.
So I'm very new to the IB curriculum, and when it comes to the hands-on activity, I have done one activity for class 10, where
Okay.
it no area of circle. So I have tried to explain him why the formula of area of circle is so with the help of a circle, and I asked him to cut the circle in various triangles, like divide it into many number of triangles, and then arrange the triangles in the upward and downward direction. And one triangle that is left, I asked them to cut it from within and stick it. So when they stick all this in their mind, they observe that the circle, when it cuts, it forms a rectangle. And with the help of this activity, I can explain the area of circle formula.
Oh, that's really great. Wonderful. Wonderful. So this is how we learn from each other. Thank you so much for sharing. So moving on. So we are going to do one Padlet activity now. Miss Manisha must have already posted the Padlet link to you. You can just click on it and keep it open because the rest of the activities also you will be inputting there as well. So I'll explain the thing to you. So from doing to learning, doing, we may be doing a lot of things, but we always do it with an intent of learning. So maybe I did an activity on integers, but I wanted them to understand the terminology. I wanted them to understand operations. So this was the learning objective which I was expecting from them. So what we want to you all to do is think of an upcoming activity that you plan to do with your class. Just think about that. Then write down what are you planning to do. So the do part, the topic. Then write down next what are you expecting your students to learn. So you're looking for the learning outcomes or the objectives here. So let's start. Meanwhile, somebody can also share their views on this. So the Padlet link is there. You just click on it and start working under activity 1. I will also try to open the Padlet here.
Ms. Desai, would you like to share something? Your hand is raised.
Yeah, Mr. Desai. Okay, I hope everybody is able to access the Padlet link.
I would request everyone to please reach the Padlet and start typing in under activity 1.
Okay, meanwhile, Manisha, should we take a few responses over the mic as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can just share with us what are you planning to do next in your class and what are you expecting your students to learn from this? Maybe you raise your hands. I cannot see anybody logged in here till now. Manisha, is my Padlet screen visible to everybody?
Ma'am, it's the PPT that is visible.
Okay. So are there any responses coming up?
For me, actually, it's net is little slow, so it's still uploading.
So
Okay,
you can
okay.
share
So
here
you can
with
also
us.
share with us. You can share it with us verbally.
I hope other participants can access the link. The link is there in the chat box.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Manisha, can you tell me what are you planning to do and what with what learning objective?
Ma'am, I am planning to do an activity with MYP1 since we are doing statistics again. So pie chart is something that they have often seen, but they don't know how to, draw a pie chart. So
Okay.
from what they already know, they know that there's something called a circular graph, a pie chart. I'm going to take them from that knowledge to drawing a pie chart. And for that, I am planning an activity where I'll be giving them some statements, some random statements with different pie charts, and they are going to, just interpret those statements and match them with their pie charts, the pie
Okay.
charts that are drawn. So from
Wonderful. So
there, they
you
will be understanding the construction of the pie chart.
okay, so you're looking for identification, you're looking for categorization, you're looking for constructions. Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. I hope everybody is able to access the Padlet link. If not, please type in a no in the chat box.
Miss Dolly has written that the link was not working for her. It was not opening, so I had posted the link again. Miss Dolly, if you can confirm that, is the link working for you now?
Miss Dolly, you can also share with us verbally here if we can just hear you out. You can unmute and you can share your views.
Ma'am, can I share my views?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Ma'am, this is an activity for class 9th level. For teaching so many years about the circles, there is an activity about central angle and the angle subtended on the remaining part of the circle.
Okay.
So whenever there is a 1-mark question that if the central angle is given, find the remaining part of the circle, there is a mistake done by most of the students. So my aim would be to just I'll ask them to draw the circle and make a central angle and make an angle on the remaining part of the circle. My first question I ask them is, which angle do you think is bigger?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
when they say that this angle is bigger, so they will never make a mistake that if central angle is given, the other angle will be half of it.
Okay, so very nice. So you are looking into observations. Wonderful.
Yeah, observation.
Wonderful.
By mere observation, giving them time to just think and look at the angles and find out by themselves which one will be bigger, then there would be no mistake in interpreting the angles. If one is given, the other will be rightly interpreted.
Wonderful.
Okay, and proving one is double of the other, the cutting pasting method would be followed. That is how we have done in CPS.
Okay, great. So I think that was enough of time to put down your what you plan to do and what you are expecting your students to learn. So I will also share a few samples that we have done in the school. This was integers multiplication by patterns. Because if students have already done the concept before you doing it with them, so generally they have always learnt it as a rule that whenever you're multiplying, first they will say minus into minus is minus, plus. So then you get quite disturbed that what you intend to do is not happening. So we made them understand this with the help of a pattern. So they observed the pattern that 4 into 4, 16 into 3, 12 into 2, 8, that the values were going down. So they've written each time there's a decrease of 4. So they reached till the bottom. So 4 into 0, they got the value as 0. Then they started with the negative values, that 4 into negative 1, since the values were going down by 4 each time, so the next value would be a negative 4. Then 4 into a negative 2 is going to be a negative 8. 4 into 3 is going to be a negative 12. So these were the students' observation. Then they finally jotted it down that positive into a negative is giving us negative values. And whereas they did write for this as well, that positive into positive, they were getting positive answers. Then they applied the flip thing here. They did the commutative property, that for -4 into 3, they started off with this. And going down to -4 into 1 is -4, -4 into 0 is 0. Then what would happen? That -4 into a -1. Now what is happening here is each time the pattern is going up by a 4. So they observed that now the values were started becoming positive. So values are going up or increasing by 4. So this is what we did, integers multiplication with the patterns observation. And rather than giving them out the rules, we generally avoid giving out student rules. We tell them to find it out by themselves. So this is one of their work. The other one was, this was from our IGCSE students, that bounds, that you would agree is quite a boring topic for them and they don't want to practice. Whereas in bounds, there's a lot of practice needed because it involves a lot of significant figures and all answers are expected in 3 sig figures or 2 decimal pointers. So to make them understand, we did this activity using Tarzia. And they were so engrossed in finding out the final outcome that they did not bother them. They have already done around 20 to 25 questions solving this. So this was again a very interesting activity for them. And generally when we are in school physically, we tend to do this as a group activity with a mixed set of learners. And everybody is given a set of role that they have to do these many questions. So this works really well for our bounds and certain things where you need a lot of practice. Another one was the students decided for themselves what are going to be the thumb rules for significant figure. So first we did a video watch, then we had a quiz, then we had a discussion, then finally everybody put down their views on this Padlet and everybody went through each other's views and finally they came up with their own rule book. So this is again the work of MYP for IGCSE students. So they discovered, they found, they just did a lot of things. Like sometimes they did not agree. So there was a lot of healthy debate going on in the class. So that was really fun to watch. This was, we generally did the net activities by paper cutting, but this time because we were online, so we tried doing it with GeoGebra and I really found it very, very helpful using GeoGebra to understand nets. Because again, we don't give them formulas. They have to identify what was the 2D shape on what 2D shape did the 3D extrude out from. So this was their observation. Then they have calculated surface areas, they've calculated volumes, and it's entirely their own work. We had just explained them that how do you get to the 3D shapes and the nets on GeoGebra, and then they did it. So this is all students' work. So now till this much component, which was our first part, is it clear? So we can have a RAG here. So R in case you do not agree or you are not, it's not clear. R, amber if it's clear to you but not much, and green if you have totally understood it. Can we have the responses in the chat box?
Now we have got a green from Mr. Anu.
Okay, nice. We love greens.
We have got another green from Miss Ruma.
Oh wow, wonderful.
And we have got all greens till now.
Okay, so that makes me move to my next segment, which is the second part.
Purva,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes, sir.
How to press the button? Green or amber or red?
No, sir, you just have to type in G or you type in A.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. So next thing is how do I want them to learn? So what would be your answer for this? How or the procedure, what do you do? So let us hear from you first. You need to answer this in the same Padlet, the same activity that you have planned with what you are going to do, what you want your students to learn, and now how you want them to learn. So what is going to be the procedure? Maybe in a line or two, you can just write it down, and we can also start having responses from the audience.
I have again posted the link in the chat box. If you're not able to open the Padlet, you can share your views here. Please raise your hand if you want to share your views.
So the same activity that you have written in the Padlet, that what you want to do and how you want your students to learn. So what would be the procedure actually? Manisha, are there any hands raised up? Anybody who would like to express their views?
Sabiha ma'am?
Okay, yes, Sabiha ma'am.
No, ma'am, my hand is not raised, ma'am.
Now it's
Okay.
okay.
Anyone else? Just a normal procedure. Do you want it to be like a cut paste activity? Do you want it to be a technology based activity, or are you planning a group work, or you planning an individual work? Anything?
Ma'am, we
Yes,
have
ma'am. Last time I have discussed about the circle activity
Yeah,
that we have
yeah.
done by cutting pasting method. Last year we have done by, we have just measured the angles also by protector and found. This time
Okay.
I've asked the children to do by cutting and pasting method. So
Okay.
both ways were equally good.
All right, wonderful.
Ms. Desai, you can share your views.
Yes, Mr. Desai.
So the teacher history would like to have first recall what they studied in their previous classes, and then they could, based on that, they could learn the concept and then apply it. So basically, that it was very this, and they will always love a hands-on experience very much related to real life. So when I basically just happened to Pythagoras theorem, this is where do we use this in real life? So
Okay.
I would start using the experiment of clinometer. I would explain the clinometer and show them how the clinometer works. And then again, it will
Wha-
not be very difficult because we don't have clinometers anymore. I would take an example of if I'm looking at a small pillar, how to confirm that whether the pillar is straight or it is bent somewhere about. So I with the help of thread, we can hold a diagonal side, that is a hypotenuse. And that Pythagorean triplets are there, then pillar is straight. And if Pythagorean triplets are not there or some points are there, somewhere my pillar has disappeared. So this way we will also have changed it so that whatever we are learning is real life later. So it has practical.
That is really great. Like connecting everything to real life situation makes like the concept then stays with the child forever. I also really like, and I also try doing that. So
Yeah,
yes,
we
Nisha.
have Miss Ruma. Miss
Yes.
Ruma, you can share your views.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think in mathematics, observation and then deriving the conclusion, like the students themselves, that is the best way they can learn, because then they don't really have to mug up any facts. Like, for example, you mentioned about pi. So instead of just telling them the definition of pi or how do we get it or the value of pi, it's better to just give them 5 circles with their radii and then let them measure the boundary length and the radius, ask them to take the ratio, let them make observation that the ratio comes out to be similar, it's a constant, and then perhaps coining the term pi. So let them observe, let them conclude themselves. I think this is one method that always works with the student.
Thank you so much, Uma ma'am. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful.
Ma'am, we have few responses in the chat box also. Miss Kakuli has written that we should first allow them to do what they think should be the first step.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Anup has written, allow them to work in groups as this helps the weaker ones to participate in the learning.
Great.
And there's
Absolutely.
another one, Miss Asha Lata has written, allowing them to inquire further with the prompts in group and share their findings.
Wonderful. So these are what we had looked into, planning and designing, that how are we going to take the thing forward, whether we are going to make it a group work or whether we are going to make it a individual work, depending on the complexity of the concept. Where if we want more brains to be involved, we'll go for a group work. And if we want it's a single concept and that needs to be embedded in every mind, we'll go for an individual work. Whether we are going to carry it for around a month or so, is it going to be a long term one or is it going to be a short term one? So from here only, let us just hear, have you done any kind of long-term project or long-term hands-on activity with your students? Anybody? Anyone has done, like we know our hands-on activity come to an end within a day or so, but has anybody taken it forward to a long-term project or a long-term hands-on understanding? Yes.
Yeah, ma'am, this is Dolly here.
Yeah. Hi.
Actually, for the chapter, meaning for them to understand percentage actually,
Yeah.
they were asking us like where we generally use it, where how often do we use it? We all know we use it for our exams and everything. So I had given them activity for over a month so that they can monitor for how many hours they study for the day.
Okay.
So this was done for, meaning they used to write down how many hours and then they calculated the percentage. So over a span of 30 days, my learners had calculated using, I mean, they did the normal traditional method itself, but yeah, they did it over a span of 30 days and understood. Okay, so and so day we tend to study more, or so and so day we tend to study less. So in this manner, I mean, they actually understood in a much better way. So they were actually trying to make it, okay, let's make it more, every time we wanted to keep it as a constant.
Okay, that's really wonderful. So great to hear. Very nice.
Ma'am.
Yeah. Can we
hear from Ms. Kakuli also?
Yes.
Yeah, I think when we do functions, that's again one of the stages when it cannot be done in a very one thing. However, I do take help of the technology in that case, ma'am, and one by one, one is being taken up in the class, and then further it is through a group wise. Each group is given, they become a sine group, or you can be a cubic group, you can be a quadratic group, and that is how they represent themselves, and they are supposed to speak about themselves, right from how they behave, what happens when any coefficient changes or so it's like kind of a living the functions themselves. They're supposed to talk about, and even at the same time they do comment about the other group. So a lot of learning happens in that way, and it is
Exactly.
quite a long it takes quite a long time.
Yeah, totally agreed. When it's a group work and the intelligent discussions that we can hear really makes us proud and happy. So as Ruma ma'am said, we'll just go with that pi students identified as the ratio of circumference to diameter. So this was a pair activity which they did. So two of them cut out circles, and we kept the measurement small so that it was easy to rotate it on the ruler. So this radiuses were taken, then they calculated the diameter, then they found out by the measurement on the scale that what was the circumference coming out to be, and they expressed it as the ratio of the circumference to diameter, and they saw that the values were coming quite close to these values. So this is what also one of the student has done it and written that the values are coming closer and closer to 3.14. And we never use the terminology that it's 22/7 because we wanted them to understand it's an irrational number, and then later on then this shouldn't be a doubt that why did you tell us that it's 22/7, now you're saying it cannot be written in the form of p/q. So we told them the values were approximately equal to this. So these were the students' observation. Another one was, as we discussed, was using the unit squares, doing the addition and subtraction. Then the students themselves did a few problems by themselves taking dots and all and identifying that what would be the value. Again, we never made them use any rules here. This was a collaborative project that we did with our DP2 students, which was around a month long, which I was saying that a long-term project. Here we divided the whole thing into three parts. One was finding out angles and to see how the angles extended beyond 90 degrees using this unit circle. So the groups were divided. There were three groups. One group leader was made, and that group leader's task was to assess the learning of the other group members. So there were breakout rooms in our team's group. Then they went into those group, had a lot of discussion, and then we gave them open choices of using whatever technology they were comfortable with. These angles, there was no use of calculator, so they have applied the concept of symmetry to locate the angles. So symmetry through reflection. So these were only the first quadrant was given to them, and rest of the quadrants they found out using symmetry. Then they've derived the sine and cosine graph by taking the vertical and the horizontal heights, and they did these activities. And then for the transformation of the trigonometric functions, we did allow them the use of GeoGebra, because then observation became very, very simple for them. So this is how they have taken down their observations, then written it down. This was the rubric that was handed over to the group leader, on the basis of which he had to assign marks to them and assess them. So this was a self-created rubric kind of thing, though there are lots of rubric available ready to use as well. So this one we made it. This was from the second group that came up. They made use of OneNote. So this was entirely done on OneNote. The measuring was done on OneNote. And then they have put down in their entire reflections that they could do it without the help of GeoGebra as well. Then the transformations here and this. And I also like to share one very wonderful experience while we were doing this project work or the hands-on activity of trigonometric function. We generally tend to make the smartest of the smartest kid the group leader, but this time we tried, after seeing a lot of videos and all and sessions within school, we found out that we can allot assignments or responsibilities to even those who are not very, very good. So here I made one of the student who did not submit assignment. So when he took charge, he understood how difficult was it to get work done from others. So it was basically a kind of life skill or a learning from him. Now I see him much more regular with his submissions on Manageware. So it kind of helps the students also to understand their responsibilities when they are doing a group work. So it worked out very well and took a period of 1 month, but I have this, I'm 100% confident that even now, if we ask them anything about trigonometric functions, they're very confident with the concept. So these were the grades assigned by the group leader with reasons that why he or she has been given less marks. So the group leader has himself given himself full marks, but he was able to explain the whole concept as well, and to the other members, and could the lower marks here, though he couldn't express his answers in words, that's why he has deducted 2 from the grade. So this was one of the work done by, again, the DP2 students with a new concept, which was Voronoi. Again, Voronoi with several points can be a bit challenging, but when they did it on GeoGebra, they were able to identify the things. We did this before we went into the formulas for derivatives. So they saw it as the slope. They could understand you can find gradient at different points. How do you do this? So this whole thing was done using GeoGebra. And it was basically they had to identify a water body and whether the placement was at the correct spot or not. So another very wonderful work. This was a short-term one. Within 2 days, they were able to do this. So this was their entire work. Now I would like you to take a look at this picture after the work has been done. So does it resonate with your thoughts, and how do you address this? Can we have responses from the audience? Manisha, is there anybody who would like to share his or her views on this?
Purva ma'am, can I have the idea of this particular section once again? I mean, I really, yeah.
So commonly we say that the moment the work is done by a student, they will immediately jump out, right? That I've finished my work, I've done my work. So how do you address that situation? Because just finishing the work, does it mean a good quality work, or does it mean precision or perfection? Then how do you address that?
In my case, generally what happens, there's a mixture of students that I have. So okay. What happens is, of course, the brighter ones, they happen to finish the activity, and of course, their response is very much that I can see on the screen also. They just say, I am finished. But there are other students who are like not sure, or they think that they are not, comfortable with it. So what I have experienced here is that the ones who have already done it, they go and sit with them as a peer, and they make them reach out to, whatever the target is or whatever the aim of the activity is. And that's how the students have collaboratively helped each other to come out to this kind of situation. This is what I have seen in my class. I would like to see if other teachers can also bring in their perspectives. Yeah.
Yes. Any other perspective of the same page?
Purva ma'am, I would also like to share my experience on this. Since I'm teaching all the MYP classes, we have these kids, they will actually jump out of their seat and they'll say that, ma'am, we're done with the work, although the work has a lot of errors. So what I am doing right now on the online platform, once a child says that, I'm done with the work or others are still doing it, we ask that person to share his work and share how he was so fast in doing that work. So in that way, he starts addressing the other kids, and then he get to know that, yeah, this is what I was doing and this is how I need to work upon. So it's like a flipped classroom. So there it helps the students also, and other students also self-check their work, and they are more cautious about it, that yeah, I have to revise my work, because at times, ma'am, while I'm doing the work, ma'am might ask me to share my work. So it actually helps when you use flipped classroom.
Okay, great. Any other perspective? Okay. Any other, Manisha?
Can I share, Purva ma'am?
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure.
Right. So this I'm sharing when we have the normal classroom, not the online situation. So obviously, since we have a heterogeneous, so we'll always have some who will finish it fast. There are some who in the middle who are doing it, and absolutely some who will be still struggling to understand that concept also. So what I use in my regular classroom environment, those who have done it in a quicker way, will ask them to come to the board and to explain to the rest of the class. It actually solves a dual purpose. It motivates the main learner who is actually able to do it first to every time to excel and do it in a quicker manner. And at the same time, when as a student he is explaining to the rest of the class, that peer learning is taking place. He may be breaking it into those smaller chunks where it is easy for others to understand, because now he's kind of teaching them at a student level. So I always found this technique is very useful, because at times as a teacher we can assume that a plus b whole square and we just write the answer that way. But when as a student, when they try to explain, they try to make it in a best possible way, and they are actually at their own level. So I found that this is quite engaging one, and the main person who is actually have done it, when he is coming on the board and he is solving it, it actually boosts and kind of motivates his morale also. So in maths we definitely need a lot of backpatting, and we need a lot of to make them confident that this is not something which is rocket science. Rocket science is actually made of math only. So when we do this thing, it actually makes a wonder in the class. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Great views, sir.
Okay, so I have few responses in the chat box also.
Yes.
So, ma'am, the principal of Sunshine, she's written that give clear instructions in the beginning. Once they finish, they can be asked to share. And we have another response from Miss Asha Lata. She's saying that I would like to add on to Rajiv sir that different approaches are discussed so that learners feel encouraged to try out different methods.
Yeah.
So these are the responses in the chat box.
Great. So I think we can move on. So we certainly have been doing a lot of activities till now. And what are the things that you keep in mind before you start an activity? So let's again take some responses from you. So you can raise your hands to give answers. Even a word will do, not long sentences, single words that you keep in mind before doing an activity, before the start of an activity. Any responses, Manisha?
Ma'am, we have a response from Miss Ruma. Well-defined rubrics.
Okay, great.
This Asha Lata is saying checklist is important.
Okay.
Clear instructions to students. This Miss Amita has written. Mr. Rajiv is saying clarity of instructions.
All right. Okay, great. So these are a few things that we felt that, and we do it, that we keep these things in mind before we start an activity, is we are very, very well prepared for the activity. So suppose we are doing something that involves cutting, pasting and colorful sheets and all, we keep informing the students a week ahead so that they start getting their things and keep putting them in their locker. And we ourselves as teachers, if you come over, you will see our cupboards are fully loaded with the stationery items. So besides lesson plan, the entire things that are required to do it, it's the preparedness for us. We ensure that we are doing the concept, the activity before we introduce the concept. For example, if I have to start the chapter of circles, I will do the activity of pi beforehand and not after doing the chapter. Then the learning objectives, we all know we define that way ahead. Time factor is another thing. We try to keep our activities or plan our activities towards the end of the session and not in the starting, because students are generally really active during the start of the time. So we engage them with our teaching, and towards the end, when they are started getting tired or they are not in the mood to study, we do that towards the end of the lesson. We also keep the attendance in mind because we do it as a formative assessment. So we ensure that there's either 100% attendance or minimum students are missing on it. And if we are deciding on a group work or an individual work, then the group is always decided by the teacher. We don't leave it on the students to do, because then they prefer taking in their friends into that group. And we want to always have a mixed set of learners in the entire group. Okay, now an age group is another factor, because the moment you say, oh, we are doing an activity in middle school, you'll get response, oh, yeah, we are doing an activity. But the same thing if you do with a senior class, you say again, we are doing an activity, though they may have done an activity a month or two before. So we try to keep the cutting, pasting and colorful things for the middle year group, and we generally try to engage the seniors with the technological part. Then classroom management also we thought was an important criteria that we need to keep in our mind before assessment. We ensure that if it's physically present, everybody is there, then the volume at which they are talking and discussing does not actually disturb the other groups. And we also use a technique which is known as C3 before me, because with how much of effort you may have taken to explain the whole concept, you may have a hand or two who will say, what are we supposed to do? So that totally brings you down, that I just explained 10 minutes. So we tell them the strategy here, that rack your brains first, look into the book, it's basically a handout which we give it to them, then ask your friend, and then finally come to the teacher. So this keeps the students at check, that they need to do these three things in case they are not attentive, and then only come to the teacher. So let's hear from you. Let's rack. So if you think till the second part, the second outcome is clear to you all, you may write a R, A or G.
Ma'am, we are getting a lot of greens, but Miss Amita has written an A here.
Okay, can Miss Amita unmute and say which part wasn't clear?
No, ma'am, it was by mistake.
Okay, so Amita, it's a green for you as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Ma'am, we are getting all greens.
All right, so I think then we can move on, Manisha, to our next segment, which is the last one. So how do you let your learners know whether they've learned or not? So how do you how do the learners identify that the concept is learned by them, and how as a teacher you understand that the concept that you intended them to learn, that's totally clear to the students? And you can share your thoughts in the Padlet. Same Padlet, you can just click and write down the third component. Meanwhile, we can start having a few responses here as well in the group.
Ma'am, Miss Priyanka has written that exit slip is one of the important things.
Oh, great, great, great. Okay. Any other?
I would request you to leave your answers in the chat box, please.
Maybe everybody is writing in the Padlet. So if we can have some hands raised up, and we can also discuss that how do you let your learners know whether they've learned the concept?
Ma'am,
And
we have
how
few
is...
responses. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Manisha, continue.
Yeah, we have few responses in the chat box. Ms. Vardohi is saying that reflection questions are important.
Okay.
Ms. Sumitra is saying quizzes.
Okay.
Then we have a response from Ms. Ashalata, formative task. Then another response from Ms. Vardohi, recap is important.
Okay.
And Mr. Joseph has written short quiz.
Okay. Oh, that's really great. So I think we'll give them that what we have written down, and obviously we will take the points that have been sent. First, writing reflections, because when the student writes, he writes on the basis of his understanding. So we can understand what was the thought process going on inside the child's mind. So what was a challenge for them? What was the part that was understandable to them? What was easy? What went well? What did not go well? So also giving them a rubric, as Ruma ma'am has said. So it helps them to self-evaluate at what point are they. So rubric can be the one which we design ourselves, or there are ready-to-use rubrics also, which you can always customize and use it. Or finally, what I really love this the most is by presentation, because I feel that when you are ready to present, that means you have understood the concept very well. So presentations are a very good way to express your entire understanding. So here, I would really love to read this reflection, because I just love this reflection. It's very close to my heart. I can now relate with integers. This was after they had done that unit square activity. I can now relate with integers by holding them, seeing them, touching them. I was earlier using a plus and a positive sign interchangeably, but now I know they are not the same. Also, I could understand what is actually happening while performing the operations. I got confused with subtraction first, which was quite obvious because getting in that zero pair was a bit of challenging task for the students. As I did not know what to do, what to do in case I did not have any. Now I know zero pair is a solution for all, and I can count on them. So that zero pair actually with the MYP came as a superhero, that they could use it whenever they wanted and how much they wanted. Suppose they were lacking something, so they could get those zero pairs. These were the reflections written by the DP students when they were doing the transformation of functions. And this is a reflection on that pi activity, which one of the student has written. Again, a few reflections from that trigonometry activity where they saw that angles, how they exceeded beyond 90 degree without the use of calculator. So it was how the symmetry was helping them to understand angles and why they were getting those plus and the negative signs. So here, and also the sine and the cos curve using the perpendicular distances. So that these were some wonderful reflections written. This is one of the rubric which I would ask from the audience only, that if they have been using rubric, what kind of rubric have they been using? We have been like kind of using where they can categorize themselves, whether they are at the novice stage, apprentice stage, or are they at a practitioner stage, or have they become experts? But would really love to hear from the audience, what kind of rubric have they been using till now? Anybody ready to share?
Ma'am, we have a response from Ms. Ashalata for the previous thing. She says that reflection definitely at the end of every session, but another task wherein they could apply their understanding will help have both the learner and the educator about the level of understanding. So something which has the concept also.
Definitely. Yes, can we hear somebody who has been using a rubric and how they have been using rubric in their schools?
We have a hand raised from Ms. Fatu.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Purba, I just saw a very interesting response in the chat box, not directly on the rubrics, but Sunshine School Principal is writing about 2 stars and the wish technique. It would be interesting to hear more of elaboration on this response.
Yeah, sure. Sure, ma'am, if you could unmute yourself and discuss with us.
Namaste. It is very simple. You just have the 2 stars means you ask them 2 takeaways from the whatever you have taught them, and 1 wish, that is one thing that they've not understood and they wish to learn more about that topic. So with that, you will get an understanding of what they've actually understood there and what they want to know more about it. So I thought that would be, yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, any other response for the rubric, Manisha? Would anybody like to share the practice of rubric that they have been using? Or we can move on.
Ma'am, I think we can move forward.
All right.
We do have one hand raised here. Miss Asharleta?
Yeah, I have put it in the chat box. Namaste all. We have been using solo taxonomy in certain cases wherein it is the demands of the enhanced PYP, but then even otherwise, a rubric which will show the conceptual understanding of a given topic and the content knowledge is prepared for a particular given unit.
Okay. So do you create the rubric yourself or you customize rubrics?
So far, the educators are like we collaboratively create the rubric, but then moving forward, we would want to co-construct it with the learners so that they are clear of the set expectations.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Right. So I think we'll move on. So this is the part I love when there are presentations coming from the students, which shows a clear understanding. This is again a snapshot from the trigonometric functions which they did, and each and every member got their part and they explained the entire thing, and then we could consider our entire unit on trigonometric functions as complete. So when they are able to explain, so I think that's the best way to judge their understanding and understand that whether they've got what you intended them to learn. So they're keeping the others engaged as well. They had asked them to solve questions, so everybody's engaged here. So, okay, so is the third component of creating a hands-on activity clear? So we can have the inputs. Manisha, you can help me understand what kind of responses
we are getting all greens.
Okay, great. Great. So as a teacher, it really makes you happy when you see the greens.
Yes.
Right, Manisha, would you like to explain about this?
Yes, dear participants, I'm sharing the link in the link of the this feedback form in the chat box. You are requested to access the feedback form. Enter all your details correctly. This will definitely help us to improve on our further workshop. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please do not leave without filling in the feedback form. Now, if there are any questions and answers related to this topic, you may ask, or you may even post it in the chat box. If there are any hands raised up, Manisha, we can take them up.
No questions till now, ma'am.
Okay, so we think that this is just a beginning. We have started off well, and with your ideas and all also, we think we are going to incorporate it in a much better way. And hopefully we are going to have many more sessions like this where we enrich ourselves with each other's learning. So with that, I would like to thank you all for your time that you spared and you have joined us for this session. Thank you so much. Thank you, Manisha.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Purva ma'am, for such a good session.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Purva. Thank you, Manisha, for such a lovely session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Purva ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Manisha, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have the participants?
We have few participants.
Okay, please do leave after filling in the feedback form. Is this session recorded?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Manisha ma'am, you can stop it now, the recording.